Hello, everybody. My name is Marcelo Hernandez Castillo, and I am the YubaSutter Poet Laureate. Welcome again to another edition of Notes from the Field. Poetry from the Field, I'm sorry. I'm a little bit losing my voice. I'm getting over a little cough. But I wanted to use this opportunity again to offer these mini lectures in poetry for people interested in poetry, for people interested in writing poetry, and kind of get them to thinking of how they can approach, their own work, and what can poetry do. What can poetry do to in these very, very difficult times? um it's a difficult time for all of us, not only in terms of the pandemic, but the unfortunate gun violence that has happened. And I want to take this moment. It's been difficult to write poetry, and I want to take this moment to think about you know uh, what is it that poetry can do for us. I wrote a little bit ago in the paper mache column for the Appeal Democrat that answering this question, and I began with a quote by Larry Levis, who says, "After all, beauty has only three possible endings, and only one of them is bearable." So this idea of what is bearable in art. I'm often asked, why does poetry matter? It's one way of asking, can poetry make a difference? And as I said in my column, I'm convinced that these aren't the right questions. That a better way of thinking about the role of poetry and art in general is that, yes, beauty can exist in a world without art, without poetry, but might it be unbearable if we have no way of sharing this beauty with the others, no way of explaining, no way of speaking its name? So things are going to continue to be beautiful. Things are going to continue to be bad, without us. But to stand by and do nothing about it, to not document, to not record our joys, our sorrows, our happiness, our love, this difference is what poetry can make, the recording of it, so that we give it a space to at least allow it to recognize that it exists. That's what is perhaps unbearable if poetry were not in the world, is that we wouldn't have a way of communicating that to others. So as these months wear on, it's been increasingly difficult for creative individuals to stay productive, whether you're an artist, a musician, a poet. So in this wake of uncertainty, overwhelming chaos, and perhaps general apathy at the state of the world, it can be incredibly difficult to put pen to paper. And so, again, we may ask ourselves, what can art do? Today, I'm going to be offering a few exercises to perhaps stimulate writer's block, but also investigate the virtues that we can learn from the distances that have grown between ourselves, maybe give light to the narratives that have sprouted in uncertainty. And to make art that can restore, heal, awaken our sensibilities to perhaps the pain around us, in order to make substantial changes in our lives. So I'm going to be starting off by reading a poem by one of my favorite poets, who is Robert Hayden. Robert Hayden taught for many years at Fisk University and at the University of Michigan, coincidentally where I received my graduate degree. And he taught in the English department where I was at back in the 70s, 80s. He died very young, actually. And so a lot of people know his poem, Those Winter Sundays, but less people know this other poem um, by him. And I'm sorry, I'm looking at, I had it right here. It went away as these things do happen. Um, okay, no, I cannot find it. Um, I'm sorry about that. Um, I think I will share this. Actually, no, I'm going to skip that because I really wanted to share it. Okay, that's okay. So then I will probably start off with this prompt that I have set up so that we can. Um, uh, okay, thank you for bearing with me. I want you to, if you have a pen and paper, and you can take time to pause this after, I want you to write a poem not about a picture, but what the picture evokes. Not a description of the picture, but the emotional aura that it evokes. If it's about your mother, um, what are some of the emotions and memories that you associate with that? And really think of it as a emotional translation of what is in the picture, because we are very heavy laden with images, but there's emotional context behind those images. um, and so take this time to collect a picture, not necessarily write what is in the picture, but what the picture evokes, what the picture means to you. Maybe it's a place, and maybe you write about visiting that place. um, Maybe it is about a person or a dog, and what are the memories associated with that object, with that person, with that place, with that dog. So take a moment to collect that, and I will. I don't think I can pause it here. Um, no, but if you have taken that time to do that, I'm going to. I found the poem that I wanted to read. Um, it's a poem by Jeffrey McDaniel, and it's called "The Quiet World." And I've always taught this poem, I think, in very difficult times, because it's the little things that matter. And it's the little things. If we had nothing else, what is it that we would appreciate? This is, and I don't know if I can share my screen. I don't think I can. No, it's okay. You can hear it. The Quiet World by Jeffrey McDaniel. In an effort to get people to look into each other's eyes more, and also to appease the mutes, the government has decided to allot each person exactly 167 words per day. When the phone rings, I put it to my ear without saying hello. In the restaurant, I point at chicken noodle soup. I am adjusting well to the new way. Late at night, I call my long distance lover, proudly say, I only used 59 today. I saved the rest for you. When she doesn't respond, I know she's used up all her words. So I slowly whisper, I love you, 32 and a third times. After that, we just sit on the line and listen to each other breathe. Again, The Quiet World by Jeffrey McDaniel. It's from his book, The Forgiveness Parade. And in the spirit of what can poetry do? How can we respond to things that are happening around us? And what if I don't know how to put things into a language that is not just understandable but meaningful? When we bottle things up, I think is when it gets dangerous. And so again, it's this expression that really allows us to move through the world without having to keep everything inside us. And this is a poem that I like to teach both younger poets and newer poets, because it really shows the possibilities of allowing to see an artistic moment without necessarily putting the embellishments, the fancy language, the elevated kind of craft structure that we associate with poems, right? That they have to be this very difficult thing, that there's something about them that they are keeping from us. So if we could only find a key, as if it's a formula that we have to solve, that we have to break open, that we can suddenly understand it. And this is a poem that really demonstrates for me, and how I teach it, is that poetry exists in the observations that we have. In this case, this apocalyptic kind of scenario in which we only have 167 words per day that we can say, and we go through our day in silence, or we delegate those words depending on our needs if we're working, depending on our needs for friends and loved ones. And here, it's not necessarily the language but the observation, saying, in the restaurant, I only point at chicken noodle soup. When the phone rings, I put it to my ear without saying hello. And, the kicker in this is calling somebody you love and telling them, I only used 59 words today. I saved the rest for you. But this person never responds. This person has used up all of their words. And so in that, the I in this poem says, I love you 32 and a half and a third times. And then after that, we just sit on the line and listen to each other breathe. And I always think, what is this other person doing that didn't allow them to save those words? Maybe they didn't have the luxury of being able to not use up all of their words. Maybe they had to. Maybe they didn't want to save up their words for this person calling them. Maybe they are not as in love with this person as they are of them. And so, you don't have to know how to write poetry in order to see poetry around you. And even in this made up scenario, what does this say about, our insistence of wanting to be with somebody else? What are the lengths that we would go to in order to express our love, our care, our commitment to somebody else? And here it's the sacrifice that this person has done of saving all of their words simply so that they can talk to this other person and hear this other person. And this is kind of what I call the situational drama of poetry, where it's not necessarily the language and the how it is written, but the what is said. A lot of the times you kind of need both, right? At the very core of it, this poem does still have to follow the strictures of poetic convention, but there's the importance of how a poem is written and what a poem says. Sometimes it's leaning more towards what a poem says than how it's written. And this one, I think, we can see that here through simple observation. Um, I'm trying to think of a different example that has happened in my own life. And recently, I think I would say that I noticed something that my son said. You're always hearing like kids and they say weird things that makes you really think because they don't have a filter. And I told my son Julian, I said, Julian, you're really growing. You're really growing up. You're changing. And he said, no, he calls me puppy, father. He said, no, puppy, um, I'm not changing. I'm not growing. Only my outside is growing, meaning his body. But essentially, he's still the same person inside. And I didn't have to put that onto paper. I didn't have to write it down. I didn't have to put it into a poem, but I simply stored it away as from the situational drama of it, knowing that that exists in my memory and knowing that I don't necessarily have to find a good way of saying it, but the thing itself is what is poetic about it. That he is convinced right now that you don't change, that something essential about you stays the same on the inside even if on the outside your appearance changes, so on and so forth. So I think I want to leave us all with that. Um, I keep these lectures rather short, short and sweet. And so next month I am a little less swamped. I teach at the St. Mary's College in the Bay Area in their MFA program in poetry. And so the semester has ended finally, and I will be able to have my guests and also uh, have a little better voice. I caught a little cold. Thankfully, it wasn't COVID, but I caught a little cold. I think from my son. As always, please check out YubaSutterArts&Culture's events. There's monthly events. There's a lot of stuff happening at the Sutter Theater for the summer. So enjoy and thank you. Have a wonderful week.